Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sylbourne Show. Today we have an inspiring, dynamic, and interesting guest. She has been practicing law for the past 10 years, specializing in child protection, and has founded a non-profit organization doing some incredible work. That's all coming up right now on the Sylbourne Show. Joining us today, we have Mrs. Lanre Thomas. She's a qualified lawyer who has been practicing solely as a child protection lawyer for the past 10 years and founded the not-profit organization African Child Today. Welcome, Lanre.
Welcome. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
How was the weather?
Cold.
This is London. I mean, that's why people come to London, to enjoy the weather, isn't it? So tell us, what is ACT, African Children Today?
African Children Today was born out of many years of practicing as a child protection lawyer. And having worked with a lot of African families and Afro-Caribbean families as well, where they have become involved with children's services, the state, due to a lack of knowledge of what the expectations are in terms of parenting in the UK. Yes. And where the involvement of the state within the family is a very alien concept with them. The unfortunate outcome of these families was that they inevitably lost their children. Right. So African Children Today came about with me giving back to my community and imparting the knowledge that I have gained over the many years back to them to try and, in the first instance, prevent them being involved with the state. Okay. And if they do eventually become involved with the state, to assist them to understand what was expected of them and to gain a better understanding of the processes. We also help professionals as well to understand the dynamics and the difference in the social-cultural nature.
We're talking about professionals like social workers, lawyers in the child protection field.
In the child protection field. And to make sure that that is very much in the forefront of their mind when they're dealing with such families.
Okay. So tell us, for those who are not aware, what are some of the problems, would you say, facing African children and families when immigrating here and dealing with local authorities?
I mean, the first thing and obvious thing is the fact that the involvement of the state in the family is a very alien concept within the African community and also the Afro-Caribbean community. The children are brought up within the community, within the nuclei of the family, as well as the family in a wider context, and the community in another wider context. So it's not just your nuclear family as we would have it here in the UK. So the checks and balances of how children are disciplined, are raised, are done within that context. So when you take a family whose cultural background and idealization comes from that, and you bring them into a system where the state does have the power to become involved with how they bring up their children, they inevitably resist that.
So tell me, when you talk about like the difficulties and the problems in bringing some specifics, what are some of the specifics that an African Caribbean parent coming to the UK would normally do that the UK would snuff at or find that intolerable to understand?
Very controversially, smacking.
Smacking? Or
yes,
beating them.
beating them. In our culture, to smack a child, to beat a child is a form of discipline, is a way of showing love. Yes. And here it isn't. Yes. Here there is the belief, and quite rightly so as well, that children can be brought up and disciplined in a non-physical way, where there isn't any physical chastisement of that child.
It's interesting you say that right there, because for some children, even my children, when you say sit on the steps, I mean, it's like they're gonna die for sitting on the steps. I mean, I think back home in the Caribbean, man, that would be like a pleasure. Okay, I'll sit on the steps, Daddy. But what do you think is the mindset then that a child in the UK would say sitting on the steps is like a punishment which they cannot afford to undertake in comparison to a child in the Caribbean Africa which is being chastised by physical infliction?
In the UK, when you restricts a child from doing what they particularly want to do or like to do, I think that has a more lasting effect for that child in terms of remembering the cause and effect of a behavior. You do this, this is the consequences of it. If mom or dad tells you don't do this and you decide to disobey that instruction, the consequences that you're going to get something taken away from you, you're going to have an activity imposed on you that you don't like to do. Whereas in the African culture or the Afro-Caribbean culture, physical chastisement is a brutal, harsh one, bang, or bang bang, or bang 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 bang. It depends on how upset the parent is at that point in time. But then that begins to wear off.
So that's interesting. So ACT now, ACT, give our audience then, our listeners or our viewers, what are the services in detail that your organization offer?
First and foremost, we run a series of talks, seminar, workshops, particularly geared to parents, adults, and those seminars talk about the social work processes as well as the legal processes, and we talk about what we like to call good enough care, which is a terminology used in social work where we're dealing with child protection. What is good enough care? What is the expectation? What we all, don't like to bring to the forefront when we're talking about is that a lot of these families are migrants. They're new to the United Kingdom. They come with no knowledge whatsoever. They've come most probably because they're economic migrants, and so you have a mother probably who is on her own with a child or two children who has to work one or two jobs. She's really tired. The child is misbehaving, And so those are the things that we talk about in those seminars and try and work with them and impart some ideas of what, the alternative is.
And then they're brought into an alien world.
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, interesting what you're saying about this alien concept. Now tell us, what is the importance of understanding the socio-cultural background of any child when dealing with child care proceedings and services, And why I say that is because, of course, I'm involved in this particular field, but it's an area where it all depends on the subjective factor at the same time, isn't it?
Absolutely, but I think to answer your question quite bluntly, the importance of understanding the cultural background of the family is actually quite crucial, because that could lead to that family losing that child permanently, and the repercussions for that child. The child loses their connection to the family, loses their cultural heritage, loses their background. Inevitably, that child then enters the circle of them having children, those children becoming involved with children's services, and those children, so it becomes a generational thing with children who have lost their identity. Now, if you have professionals, and not just social workers, but the police, members of the health services, members of the education services, who understand that because a parent tells a child off by smacking that child is not a form of abuse, it's their way of disciplining that child. Now, please don't get me wrong, there is a very fine line between when you smack a child and when you beat a child. When you beat a child, that is abuse. When you smack a child, then that is discipline. You beat a child and you are fueled by emotion, you're fueled by anger, and you're the adult in that situation.
So would you say then that there needs to be some sort of reformation or some sort of changes based on the understanding of that particular concept in childcare?
I think there has to be an understanding as to the differences people come into the UK with from their culture about how they bring up their children. And we don't try and put a round hole peg into a square hole. You can't expect a family who is completely different, whose English is not their first language, who for whatever reasons have come to settle in the UK, have children or bring children with them, and expect them to fully understand and gravel what, you know, the child protection process is. That process needs to understand that we're all different. We all bring up our children differently, and we're all influenced by the different things that we all bring into the mix.
So therefore, what you're saying right there is that you cannot tarnish all with the same brush. Then.
Absolutely, we can't. I mean, the child protection process in itself is not a bad thing. The state being involved with the family is not a bad thing in itself. What is a bad thing is where the state then doesn't put into cognizance or put into its forefront the fact that if a parent says, why are you involved with my family? It does not mean that that parent doesn't want to work with you to try and make things better. It means that person doesn't understand the concept of where you're coming from. It doesn't mean that, you know, they are resistant to your involvement because they've got something to hide. So that is important for all professionals, be you lawyer, be you social worker, be you police, be you even the judiciary itself, to understand that, you know, if you see an African woman talking loudly and gesticulating, it doesn't mean she's being, you know, aggressive. It just means that's how she communicates from where she comes from. But unfortunately, there are lots of situations where all of these things are termed negatively, which then are looked at and ascribed as a negative thing about that family and about that parent.
So therefore, I presume you've got seminars, lots of different seminars going on around the country?
We've got seminars going on around the country. I think we are going to start a new set this year, and we're going to start focusing on female genitalia mutilation, which again is another big thing from the African country. I don't know if you're aware, but Nigeria is one of the biggest countries in which this practice is done, and very recently they enacted they enacted a law making it illegal. But then that's just the tip of the iceberg. People need understanding.
I want to take this point just to say to the viewers and those watching or listening to actually give some comments and some feedback as to you know, if this is, or the story or what has been said has affected you in any way. I would like to hear from you, definitely. Now, Lanre, EU referendum, in or out? Just a quick question.
Oh, Sylbourne. Well, I don't think I know enough to make a decision just yet. I'm sure that, you know, there's a lot more out that we all need to know as to the pros and cons for each option.
You know, I ask that question to every guest now because you've got the politicians who are all on one side and the other side, and it seems like they know something that we don't know for them to really go full on and saying out, 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 some say in. And many people are actually saying, what is going on here? You know what I mean? And I'm not sure all the information is out. So people, please check it out for yourself. As Lanre says, I need to know more information. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Now listen, we'd like to sign off, but we'd like to ask Mrs. Thomas, what is your quotation or your quote that you say inspires you each day or every minute or every second?
Oh, wow. My great late father always says that the sky will not fall on just one person. So whatever you do, remember that it's not just you that is affecting, it's everybody else around you.
Wow, that's powerful. The sky will not fall on one person. So that means, and as Lanre said, from her late father, whatever you do has implications for others. Did I sum it up correctly there?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. And before we go, any last word you want to say about your organization again, what work you do, anything that you think we might miss? You can speak to the camera and just go for it.
We are here to help families, and so we don't only just do seminars, but we offer free legal advice. We will help you with any issues. We offer advocacy services where we would sit with you in any meetings with social services. We will have someone who speaks your language, who probably comes from where you come from and will understand your culture as well. And in the event that, you know, a family is involved with social services, then we do assessments on your behalf, whether in the UK or in your home country as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lanre, for joining us.
Thank you very much for
on the
having
Sylbourne
me.
Show. It's
Thank
a pleasure,
you.
and it's very inspirational and what should I say, educating
Thank you.
interview this has been. And ladies and gentlemen, for more information on Ms. Lanre Thomas and her organization, African Children Today, visit our website at sylbourne.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to join in with the discussion offline and online. That's all for today's show, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Sylbourne Show. Thank you.
My name is Lanre Thomas, and I've been on the Sylbourne Show. Please follow the show on Facebook, Twitter,